Hey folks, welcome to a brand new episode of Smart Money on CNBC TV18. Now with the big budget upon us, we've decided to demystify the budget document and tell you what to expect on individual stocks and basically just to sort of declutter that whole long document for you and what are the key things that you need to look forward to in the budget this time around. So first up, let me go across to Lata, who has compiled a very interesting budget explainer for us. Lata, over to you.
A budget is ultimately a P&L account of the government. So what are the key numbers in that P&L table that we should remember? The most important number is what is the assumed GDP growth, because taxes will grow as much as the GDP grows. But you have to look at the nominal GDP growth, right? That is real GDP, that's 6, 7, 8%. Plus inflation gives you the nominal GDP. Now, economists tell us that they are expecting a nominal GDP growth of 13 to 17. Very optimistic people are expecting 17. The economic survey tells us that 15.4 is a likely number. Now, 15.4 is very big, okay? If you looked at current year, the nominal GDP is going to contract by 4.2. This is supposedly a normal year, last year. Even then, nominal GDP grew only by 7.2. But we are assuming 15.4 as normal because the base this year is very bad. Okay, now as much as the nominal GDP grows, taxes will grow. Nominal GDP, we said 15.4, therefore taxes can grow by even more, 16.2. This is called tax buoyancy. Citi says that a tax assumption of 20% growth is also fair because corporates are doing well. Now, let me tell you, 20% is a big assumption, okay? Look at this, FY19 normal year, taxes grew only by 8.4. This 20% therefore is because the base is very bad. Now let us go to expenditure. Expenditure, the economists say the government should assume a 10% growth in expenses over current year. Now current year, the estimate, we don't know how the year will end, but current year the economists are expecting that the expenditure will grow by only 6.6%, and that's because of course for 2-3 months the government could not spend. In normal years, FY19, FY20, expenditure growth has been 10 to 11%. So that's a fair assumption. Now, if the expenditure grows by 10%, then the government will have about 32 lakh crore to spend. Wow, that's a lot of money? No. About 75% of that has to go in committed expenditure. Interest on past loans itself takes away about 8-9 lakh crore. And then salaries, wages, etc. So ultimately the government will have only about 6 lakh crore of discretionary expenditure to play around with for infrastructure, etc. Okay, the difference between income and expenditure will be called the deficit, and it is expected to be as high as 5.2. If you take an average of all the economists, the expectation is it should be 5.2% of the GDP. How do you fill that 5.2%? You fill it by borrowing from the market. Debt market experts tell us that if the government borrows a net of 8 lakh crore, we are fine. This is a gross number, but that is, some of it is again returned back to the market. So the market is only worried about this 8 lakh crore. More than that, they wouldn't like. So this is the final table. 22 lakh crore is expected to be the total tax revenues, of which they have to give away 7 lakh crore to the states. The center has 15 lakh crore to spend. It will get 3 more lakh, say about 3 lakh crore as non-tax revenues, from spectrum, dividend from RBI, etc. 2 lakh crore probably from divestment. So total money it has is 20 lakh crore. This is the revenue and this is the expenditure. Difference is deficit, 5.2%, which will be filled largely with market borrowing. These are the key numbers we need to know.
Okay, Lata, thanks a lot for that. That was an excellent explainer on what to expect from the budget document. Our expert today on the show is Gautam Dugat, the head of research in institutional equities at Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Gautam, thanks so much for joining us. That's the first question, right? Let's try and demystify the budget. I mean, you heard all the key numbers, but from your standpoint, what are the big things to watch for this time around?
Hi, Sonia. Good afternoon. I think as far as I am concerned, there are 2 things which are very important for me. Given the context that we find ourselves in, and with the very limited fiscal support that the government has, the primary motive for the government in this budget will definitely be as to how to revive the growth, which has taken a backseat in the last year. We have seen a decline of 7-8% in the real GDP growth. So the defining theme has to be how do you revive this growth with a very limited fiscal support? As Lata just mentioned in your explainer, 75% of the government's expenditure is pre-committed, therefore non-discretionary, right? So government has a very limited fiscal room to maneuver. And how do they do that? And within that limited room, what do they prioritize? Do they prioritize infrastructure? Do they prioritize consumption? Or do they prioritize rural spending? At the same time, you also have to keep an eye on how do they take care of the vaccination cost. And then, of course, you have a lot of people, small businesses, MSMEs, which have suffered because of the pandemic. Some of them have lost their jobs. The government will, of course, want to provide some relief to that segment of the population as well. So for me, apart from these two or three big things, what it boils down to is, do you want to revive the real estate? Because after a long time, you have seen that last 3 or 4 months, there is a buoyancy in real estate. State governments have provided some incentive, and it typically acts as a good multiplier effect on the economy. So government will definitely want to ensure that the real estate, which has picked up after a decade, remains in good state. So that's a combination of things: infrastructure, real estate, consumption, and how do you fund all of this? And at the same time, maintain the positive sentiment which has been there in the economy for the last 4 or 5 months.
Okay, I think the million-dollar question is, how do you fund all of this, right? Because the wish list is very long, but as we know, the fiscal space is limited. But I mean, Lata, explain to us what are the key numbers to watch. But apart from the key numbers, Gautam, what are the announcements that you would keenly watch this time around in the budget?
Sure. So I think, as all of us, typically look forward to on a budget day, what does the government do on taxation? And there is a heightened level of uncertainty that I'm seeing in markets around the taxation announcements. The familiar concern is around COVID cess or surcharge, and that is quite fearful because it will dampen the consumer sentiment, which has revived after a long time. So I do hope that it doesn't come through. What ideally I would want to see is what roadmap government presents on divestment to receive or to raise the money that they need to spend. Last year's divestment target was 2.1 lakh crore. We'll barely do 20,000 crores. And there are big divestments lined up: BPCL, Air India, LIC. If some of those materialize, I think the government will find lesser pressure to raise money through taxation, because no country in this year has raised taxation. Everyone has provided stimulus. That brings me to the second point, which I will look forward to. Stimulus, we have seen around 1.5 to 2.5% of stimulus on a direct side, out of which close to 0.75% has gone in favor of food subsidies and the relief that the government has provided. So we have done reasonably well in the last 4 or 5 months, despite a very strong direct stimulus from the government side. Do we see that stimulus from direct income transfer, revival of consumption? Government may want to go on the other hand and reduce the taxes and bring income buoyancy in the hands of people, and then that has its own virtuous impact. And lastly, I would very keenly watch what the government does on the housing side, because real estate plus housing, it has a significant multiplier effect on the economy. It revives a lot of things. It revives capex. It helps steel, cement. It brings buoyancy in home decor market, the whole property market. So I think that is something which I would want to look forward to. And of course, rural has been a very important parameter last year, which has done reasonably well. It has escaped the pandemic with very, very little impact, just about 4 or 5% decline in rural consumption. But urban has seen a massive 22% decline in the first half. So will the government try and prioritize urban revival as well? Because the self-employed, MSMEs and urban, salaried people have suffered a lot. Yeah. So does the government want to take this opportunity to provide some relief to them so that it leads to an overall buoyancy? Otherwise, it becomes a very one-sided engine.
Okay, so I guess, what the street wants and what you also referred to is that there should be no change in the taxation regime. Just keep it unchanged. I mean, don't ruffle feathers too much, right? That's what the market wants. But you spoke about rural versus urban. That's the big theme that played out, right, since the last budget. I mean, the significant growth in rural demand, and we've seen it with some of these tractor stocks, FMCG stocks. Could the government continue to support the growth in rural sector, or now will it sort of change gears and look to urban? What do you think?
I think government, it sounds very cliche to say, but government will try to find a golden mean. See, why do I say that? Last year, government also benefited because the monsoons were good. The reservoir levels were very strong. And on top of that, government increased the Manrega spend from 70,000 crore to 1.1 trillion almost, out of which 90,000 crores have already been spent, right? So I think multiplicity of factors came together and helped the rural consumption. Some sort of relief is required on the urban side while you keep supporting the rural economy. But you know the balance, the marginal spend can get diverted towards urban if the government wants, because this is where the incremental delta is going to come from. And you know, end of the day, urban consumption is 2/3 of the total consumption. So you would also want, as a government, to push that engine forward so that the overall economy also benefits. And of course, I mean, some of the allocations that the government has historically provided towards Manrega and sort of other rural schemes that can continue. You know, some of the infrastructure schemes also ends up as a direct income, in a roundabout way, direct income in the hands of the rural laborers, which is the road allocation and some of the other infrastructure heads over which allocations have been going up. Pradhan Mantri, I think that housing scheme, both urban and rural. So these are some of the heads where government can decide to incrementally shift the allocation and try and bring the urban consumer back, right? Because urban consumer has been slipping for a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with job losses, with salary cuts, with the pandemic, the urban consumer definitely needs some pick-me-up in this budget. I take that point. What we'll do is we'll take a short break. At the end of the day, it all boils down to individual stocks, right? So we're going to discuss that on the other side of the break. We'll be back with Gautam Dugat and Smart Money to discuss all the stocks to keep on your radar ahead of the big union budget. Stay with us. Welcome back to Smart Money. Our topic this week is the union budget and that budget document, that exhaustive document that kind of feels overwhelming when you look at it, right? So there are so many numbers to talk about, so many stocks that could get impacted, and we're here to decode just that. Gautam Dugat of Motilal Oswal Financial Services is our guest on the show. Gautam, before I get to stocks, I'm sure our viewers want to hear what are the stocks to watch. But before that, if you had to drill it down to just 5 key numbers or key figures to watch in the budget document, which ones would it be?
I think the single most important number is the nominal GDP growth assumption, because whether it is 12 or 15 changes a lot of things. We are right now very conservative in our estimates. We are running with a 12.5% nominal GDP growth assumption that has its own implications for the tax buoyancy and tax collections. The second number that I will obviously keenly watch is fiscal deficit. We are right now at 5.5% expectation for FY22. That will decide the net borrowing requirement of the government for FY22. Whether it is on a gross basis, it should somewhere be around 12 lakh crore, on a net basis somewhere around 8 lakh crore. Then I would closely watch the allocation that the government does for the housing, bunch of schemes, whether it's a rural or a urban. Fourth is infrastructure and capex. Though I recognize that central government capex is just about 5% of the total investment, but that has a big signaling effect. If the government can increase the capex budget, say by 20 or 30% within the limited fiscal room that is available, it will send a very strong signal. And lastly, the Manrega allocation, because that has really helped the rural economy last year. The allocation for Manrega has gone up from 60,000 crores in FY20 to 1.1 lakh crore in FY21, which was of course raised midway during the Atmanirbhar package announcement. Whether the government goes and increase it further will need to be seen. And lastly, the changes on the taxation side, though I think there are not many chances of changes. I just hope that we don't get any bad news on that front. No bad news itself will be a good news on taxation.
Absolutely. No news is good news, right? We'll work with that assumption. Now to individual stocks, because the Nifty has corrected about 6% from the top, right? And we're going into the budget with a sell-off in the market. What are the key stocks to watch pre and post budget? And in general, I mean, what are the stocks that you would buy in this dip, a dip that almost everyone has been waiting for?
Sure, Sonia, this is a good thing that we're going into the budget with a lot of, lightweight 7-8% correction, 1,000-point Nifty off in the last 7 days. I think the most important sector typically around the budget becomes consumption and financials. And I think consumption is very important this time because to revive India's economy, there is no other option but to revive consumption. While you can talk about manufacturing and industry from a long-term perspective. But if you need a short-term dose of revival, consumption is the only way you can do it because it reflects in the results in a very short term. So I would look at discretionary stocks which are spanning across sectors. So let's say there is a positive income effect for the customers post-budget. Stocks on the discretionary side, we have already seen those numbers picking up. Dabur just reported 18% volume growth. We saw Marico, we saw Imami, Pidilite, Asian Paint, all of them have reported very strong numbers. So already there is a momentum in favor of recovery in volumes. So if there is any positive push which comes towards the which results in a higher income in the hands of a consumer, some of the stocks can continue to do well, likes of Havells. But within the broader consumption space, I'll be very keen to track these stocks which are a play on housing theme. Even if you do not want to play a direct property theme, but home decor, durable themes, durable stocks. These are some of the stocks which I will keep a very close eye on, and I do think that they will do well if there is a positive income effect post-budget. Second sector is financials. Depending on how the fiscal deficit is and what are the net or gross borrowing requirement of the government, the financial stocks will definitely have a role to play. And then there are expectations around announcement of bad bank or development financial institution, where the government continues to support the MSMEs with better liquidity and continued credit guarantee schemes which they can extend, then that will definitely help some of the mid-cap banks and NBFCs. And lastly, some of the infrastructure-related stocks can come back into favor. If there is a push on infrastructure, because if government decides that, I don't want to go via consumption to revive the economy, but I want to go in a very methodical manner and revive infrastructure spending, then names in steel, names in cement, capital goods names like L&T, cement names like Ultratech, and metal names, because they also benefit from second order impact of infrastructure revival. So those are the broad buckets in which I will place my budget plays.
Okay, so that's a really long list of budget stocks that you can watch from Gautam Dugat of Motilal Oswal. But Gautam, some questions from my end. On the healthcare side, there is an expectation that there could be some announcements on the PLI scheme. Of course, it's an off-budget thing largely, but on the PLI scheme, on perhaps more export incentives through the RoDTEP scheme. Do you think any of these healthcare stocks, Aurobindo had a really strong run because it could be a big beneficiary of PLI. Any of these healthcare stocks that would still catch your eye?
I think, Sonia, for healthcare, I don't think budget is that critical because whatever had to happen for healthcare has already happened outside of the budget. Government can, of course, make higher allocation to the health given the pandemic situation and the need for vaccinating the country. But that is very generic. PLI-related announcements, I think, will keep happening outside of the budget, unless the finance minister decides to present a very structured umbrella approach for PLI. But the important thing, because after 1st and 2nd February, what will matter is fundamentals and earnings. Budget will be forgotten after 2 or 3 days. So what is important to note as far as healthcare is concerned is we are seeing an earnings revival in healthcare after 5 years of stagnation. So for 5 years, our profit pool in healthcare was constant at 20,000 crores. And this year, we have seen a 35% growth. Our expectations for FY 22-23 is also very strong at 15-20% growth. We like names like Divi's, we like Lupin. In the mid caps, our preference has been IPCA. So those are some of the names which will matter to us. But from a budget perspective, I don't think healthcare will come into focus too much.
Okay, so healthcare may not come into focus too much in the budget, but you can look forward to a lot as far as the infrastructure space is concerned, consumption, consumer durables, banks, financials. Finally, on banks itself, there's this whole proposal of a bad bank that people are talking about that could perhaps become a reality. There is a development fund that people are talking about as well. On financials particularly, is it only the large cap private sector banks that you'd look at, or are you looking at outside the basket as well?
Sonia, I would continue to still look at just the large cap private sector banks because they're very well capitalized if you see their tier 1 ratios. Second, they have delivered their results already for 3rd quarter. If you see the difference between large cap and mid cap private sector banks, which have reported numbers in the last 20 days, you're clearly seeing a much higher asset quality impact on the mid cap, whether banks or NBFCs, right? And there are difference between reported and pro forma asset quality numbers is much higher for the mid-cap banks compared to the large-cap private sector banks. So my preference will still be towards the larger ones, which has 70 to 75% or even 80% provisioning coverage ratios, which are running with 15 to 17% tier 1 capital position. And if the demand revives in the economy and we see some amount of credit growth coming back into the system, I think the private large cap banks and names like SBI will gain tremendous amount of market share from the smaller banks and smaller NBFCs. So we are still heavily concentrated in favor of large cap banks in our model portfolios.
All right. On that note, Gautam, we won't, of course, have to wait too long to find out what's on the finance minister's mind, right? But thank you so much for prepping us for the budget document. What are the key numbers to watch? And of course, what are the key stocks to look at as well? With that, it is curtains down on another special edition of Smart Money. Thanks so much for watching.